When a new season starts, it's time for a reset. And with the new dawn on our hands, the series organizers have elected to reintroduce multi-class racing. The new dynamic should create some serious thrills as we get ready to watch round one of the Porsche Owners Club Series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. I am Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Daniel Costello, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. With this being a West Coast-based series, it makes sense to kick it off at one of the jewels of California road racing. Let's find out a little bit more about Sonoma. Welcome to Sonoma Raceway, one of California's most famous road courses. It resides just north of San Francisco. It's been host to a wide variety of styles of racing, including sports cars, Indy cars, motorcycles, and even drag racing. But in recent decades, it's become most well known for holding one of NASCAR's rare road course weekends. For most tracks, this cornucopia would be a stretch, but considering the array of 5 different layouts to choose from, it's quite easy for the circuit to be adapted to any series needs. Most of the layouts clock in at around 2 to 2.5 miles in length and always feature an impressive amount of elevation change. This means many of the corners present the driver with a blind entry or apex. Some of these have a very distinct visual look, making them instantly recognizable. Corners such as the chute and the final hairpin feature street course-like walls surrounding the track, while the carousel is both picturesque and challenging. With few long straights, passing is often considered very difficult, but it rarely leaves races with a lack of action. Mistakes can be easy to make, offering opportunities for the brave. And it's not just the track itself which is tough. The pit entry's narrow path requires precise driving for those looking to make up time and leapfrog their competitors during stops. With more than 40 years of racing under its belt, Sonoma has become a staple for West Coast race fans. And what could be better than a glass of vino on a sunny hillside while the sound of engines echo around you? Well, it's not the repave, so it's going to be a bit bumpy, Joey, but I think that should give us quite a bit of excitement.
Sonoma Raceway, Infineon, Sears Point, whatever you want to call it, it has been around in California for a while. 12 turns, just over 2.5 miles or 4 kilometers. And when I think of this place, I think of elevation, and it's a relatively tight, twisty circuit. Primarily turn 2 up over a crest, a great passing opportunity, but you know what? It's also easy to find yourself in the grass on the driver's exit side of things. Same thing can happen up at the top of the hill at 3 and 3A. If you misjudge that apex on the right-hander of 3A, you can easily find yourself off in the grass. Another couple of notable areas on this racetrack between turn 5 and 6. Turn 6 is the carousel off to the left. There's a crest with quite a few bumps getting into it, so just got to be careful managing your speed into there. Careful of lockups as well as putting the power down out of the hairpin known as turn 7 all the way on the bottom right of the track map. And then also on the complete other side of the track map, the final turn, turn 11, another great passing opportunity, but be careful of that driver's exit wall on your left. If you track out the car too far, you can pick up some damage.
There's definitely some places where we could see them wind up getting into the barriers, I'm sure, but we'll talk about that in a bit. In the meantime, we want to mention our sponsors, which of course includes Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Game Changer Wealth, helping you become a game changer with wealth. Contact them today at GameChangerBR.com or at 225-664-2565. Now, we are in a new season. It is somewhat familiar, Joey, but why don't we go over our new race details for today?
Kicking off the start of a new season here, so round 1 of 13. Always nice to get some good points at the beginning of it all. We are actually multi-class racing, which is a little bit different. The fast cars are going to be those GTP cars, the Porsche 963 GTP, and then we also have the GT3-based cars, the Porsche 911 GT3R, the newest, baddest, best Porsche GT3 model out there. 30-minute race which is the same format as what we had before. The drivers also have a 30-minute qualifying, which is going on right now, which will set the grid. And then the big difference here is it's an open setup. So if you don't like the way the car handles, guess what? Open up the garage, that setup page. You can tune shocks, you can tune differentials, you can do whatever it needs to take to make that car turn a little bit more, or maybe kind of tighten it up on the corner exit, be able to put the power down. The point is, the driver has the control, and you can kind of shape that clay model as you need to, depending on what track you're going to.
Yeah, I'm sure some comfort in the car are going to be important with these GTPs. Much quicker than what they've been used to over the previous few seasons. They've run the GT3R for a number of them. They've had the Cup car for a bit of it as well, Joey. So this is quite the step up. I'm pretty sure many of the drivers will be up for the change, as we have some quick and adept competitors here, but it's still going to, I think, maybe catch a few out.
It is a big step up in terms of speed, but what I was always taught is that when you got big speed, guess what? You got big aero, you got big tires, you got big brakes. So it all kind of goes together. Yeah, the points are going to be pretty similar on where you're going to start braking, except you're going to be going faster and you're going to pull more G's in that deceleration phase. So I think that the drivers should be able to adapt relatively quickly. However, when you do overstep that limit, tends to be pretty dramatic with the crashes.
That's for sure. Right now, Chris Walsh, with about 2 minutes left, has the provisional pole. He actually just brought it into pit lane. This is Mark Rondeau, who sits in ninth, but it's Sagar Dawan, who is in that second spot. Needs to make up about 3/10 to go quicker than Chris and take away that pole position. We'll see whether or not he can manage that with just these few moments left. Mark Rondeau down into the braking of turn 11, the final hairpin, and then you just have that little kink here to the finish line. Let's see if he's able to improve. He'll get a chance for one or two more laps here, and this one will not set a faster time for him, unfortunately.
I think the big difference that we're seeing on the screen from the open setup compared to the fixed setup is actually here in qualifying. Remember, with the old style fixed setup, you would actually have to go out there and run all the fuel out of the car and then come in and get those tires. But now here with the open setup, the drivers, they can actually put in the minimum amount of fuel, go out there, do one or two hot laps, hit that reset button, come in, get a brand new set of tires, and go out, rinse and repeat.
Looks like we got Sagar out here, and he's going to try and give it another go. I think he crossed the line enough, or close enough, that he could still get around for one more after this, but it'll be a little bit tight here. He flies down the drag strip towards turn 7, heavy braking, and also you got to remember it is squared off. Look at how they have to double apex that thing, and then so important because let's see how quickly they go through these S's with all this downforce, Joey.
It's impressive, isn't it? And watch this one right here. The front end's just going to suck to the ground, right to the apex curb, let it drift out, and then stand on the brakes right here. I think this is going to be one of the trickier corners, turn 11, because these cars, remember, they are the hybrid cars, so they've got that regen system. If you don't have that ABS tuned perfectly, you can get a little bit of that rear lockup, and you're coming in there with quite a big amount of speed.
Did not improve that time, but he did cross with plenty to try and get this final lap in. Jad Duncan showing about 3/10 down on his quickest lap, but he's still got half the lap left to go, although I don't think that is the race line. Oh, maybe it is. Well, nope, he just used up way too much.
You know, if you hook a hard right there, you can actually launch the car up over the wall onto the other side of the track, Joe.
I can guess how you figured that one out. Ian Roche sitting in 12th position as the checkered flag comes out. We mentioned before that it is multi-class. Doug Baccignone leads our somewhat smaller GT3 class. Jeff Shulam behind him. Both of them just retired the cars, so they're done with their qualifying. Dawan still out there, and let's see what it's going to look like as he's actually coming up to a bit of a wreck for Will Castillo in front of him. Looks like he'll be off the track by the time he gets there. The Californian comes down to the last real braking zone of the lap. Interesting line to take into it, though.
Yeah, sometimes you kind of feed it in a little early, hoping that the paint is going to grip up on the tires. I don't think it's going to pay off for Sagar here, 118.0, so no, it is not going to be faster than his previous best.
Looks like all 15 cars are done with their qualifying. 2 of them GT3s. The other 13 are going to be our GTP cars. So this is a new day, a new season for our Porsche Owners Club Series. And for the first time, I think, in maybe about 3 or 4 years, potentially, I think more like 3 years, they will have multi-class out there. It looks like it's time to go through that starting order. Chris Walsh has put it on the pole. Dawan will start next to him. You've got Jad Duncan starting in P3 with BJ Fulton in 4th position and AJ Roper starting in 5th. Then to his outside, it's going to be Ezra Kelderman. Michael Johnson returns, steps out of the booth, and tries his hand at racing once again in these faster cars. He'll start 7th. Michael Bolton begins from P8. Row 5 has Mark Rondeau to the inside, Dustin Heindel starting to his outside in 10th. After that, it's Dylan Scott starting in 11th at the top of the next slide. Ian Roche will be starting in 12th, and Will Castillo rounds out the last of the GTPs. And as I mentioned, Baccignone will lead Shulam to the line for our GT3s. All right, Joey. Like I said, a clean slate for everybody. The order has been reset. Everybody starts at 0, but I'm looking at drivers such as Dawan, who probably wants that championship, Chris Walsh, who's going to be super hungry, AJ Roper, who's seen success, and I feel like we're going to see some people eager to kick things off with a bang.
I think all the names that you mentioned there are going to be ones that are towards the front all season long as we get that nice, crisp California air, 75F. The track temp's a little bit warm with a little bit of wind there, 13 miles an hour. But the one name, Joe, that you didn't mention is sitting there in that purple car starting in 7th, Michael Johnson. I expect him to be pretty aggressive early on. You got to remember, lots of these drivers have tons of experience on a lot of these racetracks. Michael has a lot of experience here at Sonoma.
And more than that, one thing I know Michael likes to do is really tweak on the car and the setup. That was one of the reasons he did step away for a bit. He wasn't as big of a fan of the fixed setup that they ran, so he figured he'd let the others have some fun and join us up here in the booth for a while. But now that he's been unleashed, if you will, we'll see if that makes a difference as the race carries on, and they'll start off on their pace lap now, half a pace lap, before they are released for 30 minutes of racing. I don't think Jeffrey Shulam made it to the grid, did he? No, he did not.
No, I don't see him actually registering any speed out there. He might be starting from pit lane, though, and I know that if you kind of forget to change your setup and then hop out of your car, it'll force you to start from pit lane sometimes.
All right, so BJ Fulton also seems to have missed the start for some reason. Not sure why that is exactly. We're missing 2 of our 15 cars here. Let's hope that they do start from pit lane and join us a little bit later as we come wide around the final turn. They do have to give it a bit before they go. They have to wait for that call from the flag stand before they can accelerate. You can see the open spot being left on row 2 for BJ Fulton, who will, in fact, start from the pits, we've confirmed. Green flag is out, and for Chris Walsh, he gets a pretty good jump. Heading up towards turn 2, they're going to go single file for the first 4 or 5 cars, but then we start to get the double wide.
And it's Michael Bolton with a nice aggressive move in that yellow-green GTP, working his way around the outside of Michael Johnson, and now the purple car fights back, but it's Chris Walsh that's really starting to run away with it as we head down towards turn 4 for the first time.
That's a good jump down the inside of 4 there from Ezra Kelderman. He's going to be able to move himself into 3rd. That was over Jad Duncan, who's now under attack with AJ Roper trying to go the long way around, but there's just not enough grip, it seems.
Yeah, it's always a struggle, especially when the tires are still cold as well. The long way around, you got to make sure you got the maximum amount of grip, but these cars pretty neat and tidy into the hairpin, turn 7 the first time, all of them putting the power down. Those nice traction control systems allow you the confidence to do that.
Fulton has emerged and has already moved into 12th past Castillo. Shulam still 2nd in that GT3 class behind Baccignone, but he's also started this race. Just about already done with this first lap. There is your leader in the GT3s and the gap that he has managed to pull because of Shulam's late start.
It's about 2.5 seconds between them, and it's actually closing quite rapidly. I said 2.2, but now it's down to 1.5 as I think Jad Duncan is still trying to get by AJ Roper up here. This is turn 2 at the top of the hill, start of the second lap, and look at the power of those GTP cars. Once it gets hooked up, it just squirts down the track.
So as he flies down into turn 4, he's now fallen off the back of Roper after he was a serious threat for a bit. Roper now can focus forward, trying to see if he can get back by on Ezra Kelderman just in front of him in the blue and yellow. Back to BJ Fulton with that pit lane start. He's catching up to Ian Roche and Mark Rondeau pretty quickly. Something happened to Dylan Scott and Will Castillo. They're both in pit lane.
I see that as well as a little bit of a lockup there from BJ Fulton, and here we go. The number 82 is going to try to slide underneath the 8. I'm sorry, it was Ian Roche with the lockup, so it's BJ Fulton trying to take advantage here. So a little bit of a dirty air maybe coming off through the S's. Got to remember, they're doing nearly 170 miles an hour. Is that what I just saw, Joe? 170 miles an hour through the S's.
You are correct, with tiny little lifts through those back and forth corners. So they are absolutely flying. Kelderman's not happy settling for 4th place. AJ Roper in front of him. Can he catch him and get by? Or actually, didn't Roper just get by? I think they were reversed.
I think so too. So AJ Roper up into 3rd with Kelderman down into 4th, and it's shuffling up quite a bit. I think we got a replay of something that happened a little bit earlier on. Let's check it out here. I think this is going to be Dylan Scott in the 08 car. This is turn 3A coming up over the hill, and oh, it's so easy to misjudge that and into the tire wall. It's a really easy common thing we're going to see probably a lot tonight.
Real shame. He's already retired the car, it appears. So just like his paint scheme, he's discovered there's 2 sides to racing, and that wasn't the pretty one. As BJ Fulton already on the attack around the outside for Ian Roche, still holding on to Mark Rondeau in front of them. So once he gets by this Marlboro livery card, maybe he could go catch Rexy.
See how they both handle it through the S's. We've been talking about the incredible speeds. Well, these GTP cars have incredible aerodynamics, and actually a little bit of a run there through turn number 10, draws it closer to Ian, and even on the brakes, a little bit closer all the way up to the gearbox, and got to be careful. Ian actually almost clipped those tires in turn 11. You don't want to do that too much.
Certainly not. Unlike real life, they are pretty solidly in place. So if you hit them in the sim, you're not just going to kind of knock them over. You're going to do some serious damage to the car. Fulton still remaining behind Ian and fighting for what is now the 10th position. Castillo came back out after whatever happened to him on the opening lap, but he's even behind the GT3 car, so he's got a ways to go.
So this is jumping up to Jad Duncan, currently chasing Ezra Kelderman. Now Ezra's in that blue and yellow car. Michael Johnson is in that purple car just behind Jad Duncan here as we hard on the brakes into turn 7, try to put the power down coming out. I mentioned these cars have some really nice traction control systems, so I don't think necessarily putting the power down is going to be the danger area here. It's going to be how much are you going to be burning off the tires through the S's, how much steering wheel angle do you have through the carousel, and how long can you make it last consistently through the full 30 minutes.
I think they're discovering something many drivers discover when they race here. It looks to be somewhat tough to make those passes, especially now that we've gotten past the first few laps here. And discovering the aero that will help them stick to the track also means it kind of hurts when they're getting close to the car ahead.
Well, something that's going nice and easy so far is this race for the number 104. Remember, Chris Walsh started on pole. He stretched it out to about a 1.9, almost 2-second gap over that 5:01 of Sagar Delwan right now. And as long as he just keeps hitting his marks and stays consistent, I don't see why it would change.
Chris already has experience winning here. He got victory in a TCX car twice already earlier on this year in real life, and putting that to good use in a much, much faster car here than the BMW he was in earlier. BJ Fulton, let's check back in. He's gotten by Ian Roche, so there's one down.
It happened last lap around turn 11 area, so the part that we're actually going up to right now. So maybe we'll see BJ Fulton put a move on Mark Rondeau in this red Rexy-themed car. Got to get the run through turn 10, this fast right-hander, which you do have to live for. There's a jump over the curbs. That's going to set up BJ Fulton. He's going to poke the nose down the inside, but really, really deep on the brakes from Rondeau. A nice defense after a little bit of a mistake.
See Rondeau going a little bit defensive himself down into the corner, just an early turn and trying to dissuade the car of BJ Fulton from trying to stick his nose fully inside, up and over turn 2 now. Again, using a lot of that curb is Mark Rondeau. Kind of curious how these cars do handle over those things.
I don't think well. From what we saw in turn 10 there, it really upset the car and almost bounced him out into the grass. So a lot of these apex curbs at this racetrack, they're not smooth per se in terms of elevation. They are smooth that they're not alligator curbs, but if you go and aim at them, you'll jump the car and really upset the platform.
Chris Walsh now lapping traffic. Oof, and this does not look like it's a good spot through the S's, where the line consistently switches back and forth, and it has cost him dearly to Darwin, who I guess is getting it paid right back because he's now losing time.
You called it. It was about 2 seconds, and all of a sudden it shrunk down to 3/4 of a second, but guess what? That accordion ballooned right back out. It net gained pretty much 0, about 2.5 seconds still between the two.
Yeah, the good news is that there are only those 2 GT3 cars, but even with so few of them out there, it looks like it can still be quite tricky if you catch them at just the wrong time.
Well, and kind of speaking of, our little battle for 3rd, 4th, 5th is going around. Oh, and there's the contact between Jad Duncan and Ezra Gelderman just off the screen as we're watching the 59 go around. And this was a product of that GT3 car, the other GT3 car just being on the racing line, doing exactly what he needed to do, and faster GTP cars trying to find a way around came together.
And that was very nearly another big accident. Ian Roche found the car of Jad Duncan re-entering the track over the blind crest of 3B, just about plowed into him. In the meantime, up to Michael Bolton. He and Michael Johnson having a great race. These two spent a lot of time together as Michael's been coached by Michael frequently. And we'll see if Johnson can make sure that the student has not surpassed the teacher.
Well, I don't know. I mean, right now, it actually looks like the green car might be a little bit quicker as BJ Fulton is now all over the back of Mark Rondeau again, and it is really busy. Remember, some of these cars have been all stacked up and shuffled up just because of a little bit of an incident up there at turn 3A the previous lap. So once again, it's Ian Roche, BJ Fulton, Mark Rondeau, all kind of involved in the same piece of racetrack.
Kind of really squared off that last hairpin, and look how he leaped away from Rondeau and Fulton. See if he can do that again and keep himself from being vulnerable. We've got a replay of one of our incidents. Let's see if we can kind of dissect this. This looks like the problem with Duncan into Kelderman. That's Kelderman up ahead in the blue and yellow. You said this involved traffic. Let's see here. They're starting to catch it now.
Turn 3A. It's a stack up right here. So if you see the GT3 car, he's going to stay to the inside. But this is a tough place, right? It's a single lane racetrack through there, and Kelderman lifted off. Jad Duncan was not ready to completely lift off and just ran straight into the back of him.
Let's stay with us. Oh. And we've got an accident. It sounds like this looks like BJ Fulton. And he's gotten by a whole bunch of cars, so I wonder if it was involved in those that he somehow snuck by.
It was incredibly close, Joe. It was 3 wide going into the hairpin, and Mark Rondeau, thank his lucky stars, did not run into the back of BJ Fulton.
I found it on my screen, and he threaded that needle. That was extremely close. This is kind of what I anticipated with these GTP cars, that we would have some wild racing. But I have to say, credit where credit is due, we've seen some great racing out here, and these drivers have stepped up to the challenge of these things. Let's watch and see just how tight it was for Mark Rondeau.
There's the lockup, and you saw how deep he drove into the drag strip staging area down there. So yeah, that was incredibly close, but hey, tip of the cap to avoid both of the cars on left and right side.
Just about picked the right place to go there. Unfortunately, did lose some position, but at least he's still racing. BJ Fulton qualified, remember, up in 4th, so him sitting in 7th, he's still got some work to do to get back to where his pace should have put him. Next on his list is Dustin Heindel in the red and white machine you see just in front. He's coming up towards the braking of turn 11, and he's very, very close. Can he stay tight enough to him that he could try and attack? Dustin's going to cover him off down into the braking zone, and that will make life, I think, a little bit too difficult to try and execute.
Yeah, just have to look for the next opportunity. And these GTP cars are so fast around Sonoma here. You just kind of have to wait for the next series of corners, and they tend to come up pretty quickly. And this battle is still raging on between the Michaels, so it's still Bolton chasing Johnson, and we were seeing some of the other cars jump over the curbs a little bit earlier. That's tend to be what I've seen out of that purple number 9, and that's allowed Michael Bolton to really, really close it in super close in some of these corners.
And I mean, you talk about the speed here. We have to remember 2.5 miles, and it says 12 corners, but I mean, realistically, they count some of them as one corner, so it's something like 16 or so. And they're doing it in 1:18 for the quick cars. That is flying.
Yeah, it's wild. I haven't mentioned it yet, but yeah, a sub 1/22 lap times around Sonoma full is definitely pretty crazy. Just these cars, let me let you know, 140 miles an hour exiting that corner right there, 165 miles an hour over the curve going into turn 10, 170 mile an hour entry. That is how fast they're going.
Under braking once again, Dustin is able to keep Fulton at bay. And now Rondeau has collected himself and rejoined the fight, but he's not going to be alone. I think Ian Roche is also starting to gain. All 4 cars kind of converging in one spot.
Oh, and check this out. The student has passed the teacher. The number 127 of Michael Bolton, that's the green car, has gone around Michael Johnson. I didn't catch to see where it was, but this has been in develop for the last few laps now.
Grasshopper has plucked the pebble from his hand, so great job to the 127. That's P4 for him. Unfortunately, they've actually lost touch with the podium. AJ Roper's a whole 8 seconds up the road. So now that he's got past him, I'm not sure that he's going to be able to run down a spray of the champagne. We might have a replay. Nope, sounds like, oh, we are. Okay, so let's take a look at the overtake. And I think this was facilitated by a mistake by Johnson.
Remember when we were covering the track map, I said so many overcrests? Well, right there, turn 2 is an overcrest. A little bit too much speed, and all of a sudden the front tires, they just don't turn the car anymore. It's known as understeer, and you just drive it off of the racetrack. And this 3-pack right here has really compressed up. So Dustin Heindel's doing a terrific job to hold off BJ Fulton, but all of a sudden that red number 11 has joined the party, and I think that this car of BJ Fulton might start to get a little bit impatient. We are past halfway now.
Yep, we've still got 15 minutes to go or so here, but I gotta say I'm impressed with Dustin Heindel from what we saw when he first kind of joined this series to now. It looks like he's been growing and actually been getting pretty good at playing defense, because Fulton's been trying to get by for a number of laps and hasn't been able to find a way past.
He's definitely faster, whether it's the car, the driver, the combination, whatever it is. That 82 is faster than the 12. However, the 12 just has this knack for putting the car in the right place at the right time, and it just totally halts the momentum out of the 82. And when it does that, he's just got to recollect everything and just hope for the next opportunity, and all of a sudden Heindel does the same thing.
I'd say Roche is now there, so we've got a 4-car fight, although they're a little bit more spread out. Once again, BJ looking like he's getting near enough he could make an attack, and just covering the inside. Heindel is continuing to fluster that 82 as he can't find the grip around the turn 11 hairpin.
I think, though, that Heindel struggled on power down. That was the open door that Fulton was looking for. He's got the inside line. He should be able to do that. Look at the aggressive braking from Heindel. Almost contact between the two. BJ Fulton finally gets 6th place.
He slammed that door shut. He was heading for the apex come hell or high water, and it worked out, but I thought they were going to have an accident right there. Great job by both cars. Dustin now has to focus on the next two behind him, Rondeau and Roche, already getting up to the back of that number 12. And I think Rondeau wants to make up for the loss he had a couple laps ago into this turn 7.
Well, and if he smells blood in the water, if Heindel's maybe slipping up on the tires a little bit, you might as well strike while the iron's hot. And all three of them almost get into the back of each other right there. Rondeau almost into Heindel, Roche almost into Rondeau. So, okay, let's just take a breath here, boys. Let's look down towards the other end of the track, turn 11. Let's keep it off of each other's bodywork down there, too.
And watch that rear screen on the top, because guess who else is joining the fun? Chad Duncan has recovered from his incident and has tracked them down. He's got 4 cars in front of him, and I'm pretty certain with how high up he started this race, he's going to want to try and just dispose of them as quickly as possible.
I love the data. The last lap time from Chad Duncan, 2 seconds faster than the car right in front of him, Ian Roche, who we're riding on board with looking back. So things are definitely starting to get spicy, and actually right in front, Rondeau's making a move on Heindel. We're almost 3 wide at 3A. Here comes Chad Duncan around Ian Roche. He looks to the inside of Heindel. Now he's completely off the track.
Oof, I don't think that's the racing line. I'm kind of surprised he didn't get a cut course penalty for that one. Completely to the inside. And amazingly, I don't think anybody of them changed positions in that. Now we've got a replay of one of our GT3 cars. This is Baccignone, who's still leading, but had a mistake worth showing a replay. So how did he manage that? Oh, way off. Actually hits the wall. I don't think hard enough that he did damage, because he carries on.
And let me get a little nerdy technical again about turn number 2 and why it's so tricky, because turn 1, that fast left-hander going up the hill, you've got extra grip from the compression going up the hill, as well as a little bit of camber in the racetrack. So you as a driver think, oh my gosh, I've got all this extra grip. I can stand on the brake pedal, which you can. However, when you get to the top of the hill there, all of that compression and uphill goes away, and now we got contact between GTPs and GT3s. I think that was Rondeau making the contact here in turn number 1, the area that I was just talking about.
Oh, and a big cutback for Roche, who was trying to sneak by Schulem. Schulem was the one that got rudely shoved into the wall. Unfortunately, he's got to make a whole lap around to get back to it. You see Roche get sideways off of 3A. He holds on to it. He's still sitting in 9th, though.
Yeah, gosh, there is a lot going on, and Sonoma is a narrow racetrack. These GTPs are incredibly fast, and GT3s just can't disappear out there. It is providing some extreme excitement for us to watch, for sure.
We still got a third of the race left to go. 10 minutes on the clock. A lot has happened. I had my doubts about throwing these 963s out there in this series, but I approve of this decision. This has been a riot.
You know, I want to give some good credit to our second place car. I just looked at the stats at our timing and scoring pylon. You see that we're absolutely tied for fastest lap right now, a 1:18.137 from our leader, as well as Sagar Dawan.
Down to the 1,000th of a second. Good catch, Joey. So Dawan is keeping him honest. It's still 3.5 seconds, so he hasn't lost a whole lot. I guess just Chris maybe a bit better at the beginning, or maybe potentially through the traffic and was able to kind of scamper away. On board with Chad Duncan. Still hasn't managed to overtake these cars now that he has caught them, but maybe a battle in front of him will open a door, because Ian Roche is looking left and right on Heindel.
Oh, they're all just trying to find a way around, and I think it's Rondeau that has stretched out at least a little bit of a comfortable gap, and it's really Roche applying that pressure to Heindel. He slips a little bit wide through the carousel. You got to be careful, because Chad Duncan in this black and gold car is right here. Is anybody going to be brave on the brakes? Chad's going to take a look. Here's a late move from Roche, but everybody gets the car stopped.
And and still no change for position. They've been in this order for about 5 or 6 laps now, despite it looking like Rondeau is the slowest of this quartet, and it only gets faster as you go back. Chad Duncan following them through turn 10. It's a better run for him than Roche coming down into the braking zone, but he's a little too far back.
I think what's interesting is that all 4 of these cars have speed in different areas of the racetrack, and when they get the run on the car in front of them, it's almost like they kind of just get stymied up and can't do anything with it. So I think if they kind of separate their brain from the car. There goes Chad Duncan, a problem in turn 2. That's heavy contact with the wall. That was an odd one, Joe.
You know, a car going just suddenly straight, I'm going to take a wager that something happened with the wheels or pedals on that one. And I think that's going to be day done for Duncan, who tows it into pit lane.
Back to my little ADD thought over there. I was just going to mention that they kind of get blocked up when they get the run, so sometimes you have to separate yourself from the car and be like, okay, I actually need to breathe a little bit and mistime my run, because that might actually provide me the opportunity to put me in the car at the right place at the right time.
Sounds like we've got a replay. If this is with Duncan, I wonder if we can get an onboard to watch the wheel here. So even just from outside the car here, yeah, let's watch. So if the wheel snaps straight or something here, I think it's definitely going to be a technical issue. No, it's not. He was still working it.
That was rear lockup, Joe. If you notice, he got loose to the left, right? The car turned too much to the left, and turn 1 is heavily loaded on the right side. So if you stand on the brakes and all of the weight is on that front right tire and the rears lock up, guess what's going to happen? It's going to hook left.
Well, he's discovered that the hard way. He's still in pit lane. Will Castillo hasn't overtaken him for position, so Jad might actually still be scored in 11th, although there's no change in points between 11th and 12th in this series for him, unfortunately. There is a difference between 8th and 9th, and Ian Roche would like to get by Dustin Heindel, just hasn't been able to do it quite yet, and they're actually starting to lose a little bit of contact with Marc Rondeau. So Rondeau, now that it's been limited to a 3-car battle, has kind of picked up the pace.
And that's exactly what he's done. They were doing 122s before, and now they're all in the 120s. So maybe they've just decided to calm down a little bit and focus out the windshield instead of out the mirror, which is always where you want to look, because BJ Fulton had a very, very busy first half of the race. Back half, right now, I think he's just trying to close it in on Michael Johnson, who's about a second and a half up the road.
Yeah, Fulton is on the charge here, and Johnson might be under threat, losing a top 5 on his return to racing. His protege, Bolton, has not caught A.J. Roper, but he's distanced himself from the number 9 by a little over a second. So he's got a slightly healthy gap.
I think that this is going to be an interesting one to watch, specifically because there's only about 5 minutes left. So if they kind of compress up a little bit, if BJ Fulton catches Michael Johnson, does that push Michael Johnson further and kind of have him catch Bolton? We'll just have to wait and find out.
My goodness, Jeffrey Schulem trying to stay out of the way of this fight, doesn't want any part of it. He still sits in second in the GT3s. Bacciglione leads in that class. Coming around down the hill out of the carousel, Roche not close enough. Heindel also falling off. Whoa, way too deep on the brakes for Ian coming into turn 7.
Been a little bit of a theme, but look at the run that Heindel got out of that hairpin corner. He is all over the back of Marc Rondeau now. So once again, that 3-pack in front, this is a second 3-pack that's definitely closing it up with about 4 minutes left.
Time's running out. Maybe about 4 or 5 laps to go here for our drivers. Heindel trying to see if he can finally get something done on Rondeau in that 11. It's been an ebb and a flow. At times he's quick, and at times it seems he loses the plot a little bit. We're going to check back in with Johnson in the meantime. You were right. It is indeed closing, Joey. It's down to 0.7 of a second, so Michael's recovering.
And the last lap time, a 119.1. Michael Bolton a 119.1, but BJ Fulton a 118.9. So yes, all three of these cars starting to close it in on each other. And with how fast they're doing the lap time still, I mean, we're still looking at least 3+ laps left.
The thing that intrigues me about these battles is we've seen cars catch even 2 seconds a lap. Then they'll get to the back and find it extremely difficult to actually get the pass done. So yes, Michael could potentially catch up to him, but what's he going to do when he gets there?
That's what I was talking about earlier, and sometimes you have to just do the oddball thing, do the odd step, and almost mistime your run. Because if you keep getting up to the competitor in front of you at the wrong time, you need to do something different.
Chris Walsh making it look a lot like his TCX races, just kind of running away from everybody else. Dawan back there in second, now 5 seconds off. So he's been losing grip of that lead bit by bit, lap by lap. Granted, he's 10 seconds ahead of AJ Roper, so he's not under threat, just doesn't seem like he's got the legs to try and bring the fight to Chris.
So here is the battle between 4th, 5th, and 6th. Michael, and BJ. And I do think it is close enough for the slipstream. However, at Sonoma here, I don't think that the slipstream is really playing a big factor. The straightaways just aren't long enough. I think, if anything, the dirty air is probably a bigger effect on the driver, especially on the front end through this S section.
All right, well, coming through there now, you can see how much wider apart the two of them are. Johnson can't stand the dirty air coming off of that bright highlighter green car down into the braking of the last turn. He's going to get maybe 2 more laps to try and make this stick. He's going to have to get a lot closer than this if he wants a realistic shot.
I'm not sure what happened to BJ Fulton that lap, because he was only about 3/4 of a second behind this. And oh, do you see this? We've got a GT3 car coming into turn 3A. This is going to stack them all up, because this is over Crest. Johnson now all over Bolton, almost 3 wide going into 4. A big lockup from the lead car, and now the race is on.
Johnson tried for the cutback, but couldn't get it tucked down to the apex in time. He breaks later, down into the carousel, pinches him down, and manages to get it done the long way around. It is rare you see passes like that there.
Oh, just took advantage of the bumps on the inside of the racetrack and really boxed Bolton in. And now Michael Bolton has got BJ Fulton all over the back of him. Remember, BJ's had to climb through all of these cars, and now he finds another one right in front of him. That's just another possible position.
White flag has been waved for Chris Walsh. 1 more to go. There he is now on screen. Dawan caught up because Chris also caught a little bit of that lap traffic. It's down to 2.4 seconds. So I guess that 5-second gap was actually quite a good thing for him, because if he had only been about 3 seconds, this would be a much closer fight right now.
It also just kind of allows him to approach the traffic as he needs to, right? If he's got 5 seconds, guess what? He doesn't need to force the issue. He can burn 2.5 seconds and still be plenty comfortable. I think that was great decision making.
Yeah, and his speed has certainly paid off. He's got just half a lap to go now, coming down through the S's, cutting back towards that finish line. And look, nobody in front of him whatsoever. No traffic to give him problems. He knows that all he's got to do is execute from here on his braking, on his turn in, and getting smoothly onto the throttle. Chris Walsh may have missed out on the championship last season, but he is going to open up this one with a victory at Sonoma.
Great drive from that number 104. Sagar Dawan right behind him by only a few seconds, will finish in second place. Then AJ Roper will round out the podium. I can tell you that the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th has kind of stretched out just a touch here. The GT3 winner will be that number 59 of Doug Boccioni as Jeffrey Shulam crosses the line first.
Yep, Jeff was on a separate lap there, because not only was there the leader between them, as good battle at the finish there between Johnson and Bolton, But yeah, the extra pit stop that Schulem had to make because of the damage also set him behind. And Baccignoni is coming around the final corner right now. So our winner of the GT3 class is going to be the number 59 here today.
So see Ezra Kelderman, I believe, cross by him, collect that checkered flag as well. GT3 is definitely going to be a bit of a talking point after this one, Joe.
Yep, small field. I don't know. We'll see if they can get a few more drivers in to carry it on, or if they'll just kind of elect to ask them to start driving those GTPs. But let's go through our results for today's race, with Chris Walsh taking the victory and getting full points here today over Sagar Dawan in second. AJ Roper with an excellent third. Michael Johnson, we always talk about how he races better than he qualifies. He jumped from 7th to 4th, and it was ahead of Michael Bolton with a great back-and-forth battle between those two, Bolton taking P5. BJ Fulton was 6th with Mark Rondeau in 7th, and then Dustin Heindel finishing P8. Ian Roche gets a 9th, as Ezra Kelderman will be the last one on the lead lap, getting 10th. After that, it's Chad Duncan, P11, and Will Castillo in 12th. Baccignoni and Schulem will finish 13th and 14th, but that's first and second in the GT3 class, and Dylan Scott was a DNF today, sadly, down there in 15th. Well, like I said, Joey, I had my doubts on this one coming into it, but they proved me wrong in a great way. A pleasant surprise of a fun and exciting race out there.
Yeah, I agree. I think POC always provides some great racing and some great camaraderie out there. And I was just going through timing and scoring. I do think that purple number 9 is our biggest mover of the day, up 3 positions. There's a few cars up 3 positions, but he was the furthest forward of the group. So good job to Michael Johnson on that return to racing.
All right, let's talk to Chris Walsh, our victor here for today's race. Like I said, someone who has real-world experience here, not just on the track, but in victory lane. Chris, congratulations. It looked like you had that one well under control, although the traffic at the end definitely ate up some of your time.
Yeah, I underfueled. So actually, I had to spend the last 10 minutes fuel saving to make it to the end. I finished at like less than half a liter when I crossed the line. So I got a little bad gouge from the crew chief, the digital crew chief. So I thought I actually took extra than I needed, but I was burning at a higher rate at the beginning. So I have more homework to do, I guess, on my part to see what the different modes do to fuel burn. But nonetheless, yeah, just being smooth here and trying not to lock up a bunch is really the challenge. So Cigar, and I think did the exact same lap to the 1,000th. So he was plenty fast in the one lap deal.
We noted that too, that you two were practically tied there on that fast lap. But these are quite fast cars, not just compared to the GT3s that you guys were running in previous seasons, but going from the TCX that you used to driving around here to this, that had to have been quite the leap.
Yeah, everything comes at you at a much, much quicker pace. There's just a lot less time. The car shifts weight really immediately. There's really no waiting on the car. So it's kind of getting used to that and the lack of ABS and some of those other quirks of a GTP car. But it feels like it's the right type of car for this track because it's so fast and flowy. So it's very enjoyable to drive here.
Well, congratulations on the win. Next time out, I believe we're headed off to Spa. But before you get there, you're going to be headed off to VIR in the real world. Are you prepared for that?
Yep, I'm taking off Wednesday. Actually, I'm running GT4 now and TC America, so I've been double duty. I ran COTA in the GT4 race as well. We took second in class, so I'll continue with that driver for the rest of the season. So I'm pretty excited to get to do double duty. It looks like it might be wet this weekend, so it'll be a very interesting VIR trip. We'll see how it goes.
All right. Well, best of luck, and again, well done today.
All right, thank you.
That was our winner, Chris Walsh, and I believe Joey's caught up with Sagar Dawan.
Yeah, Sagar Dawan, first of all, congratulations on opening up the new season with a second place podium.
Thank you.
So talk us through the race from your eyes. It might have seemed a little bit lonely, but you had an identical fast lap to our leader. What did you need to physically get up there and race with him?
I needed fewer incidents. I had 6 incidents in the race. I see Chris only had 1. I was just kind of all over the place. Not enough practice, and just a really tight track for this kind of car. So it's pretty difficult to keep it on track, and I kept going off all over the place, and I think that just kept me away from him.
Speaking of the car, yes, the GTPs are pretty fast for Sonoma here, but what do you think about the GTPs in comparison to the GT3s that you guys were mainly racing last year?
They're a lot faster. There's no time to think in the car. You have to keep changing switches around to manage the battery, manage understeer, oversteer if you want to, and there just isn't. There's almost not enough time for me to take my hands off of the paddles to go change a switch. So they're super intense. Really just feels like an F1 car. It's so fast.
Well, you had mentioned that it's kind of a little bit of an odd fit with the GTPs on Sonoma. Spa is the next round. I think that these cars should fit very nicely on that one. Are you looking forward to it?
Oh, absolutely. I think Spa will bring out some more strategy in terms of how we manage the energy in the car and how we deploy it to attack. So yeah, I think it'll be fun.
Well, first of all, thanks for coming out and racing with us, and congrats on that second place finish.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
That was Sagar Dhawan, driver of the 501 car today.
That takes us to third place in the 07, AJ Roper. And AJ, you were 11 seconds behind second place. You were 14 seconds ahead of fourth place. Was 3 the loneliest number today?
Yeah, we definitely had a pretty good cushion today. It was a safe spot, I guess.
It seemed like this. The other drivers talking about the incredible speeds of these cars. How's the transition for you? Is it has it been pretty smooth? Do you feel comfortable in it?
I'm learning. I'm starting to figure out what all the controls and buttons do, and so I like the car. I think it's rewarding to drive and at a good time, but a lot of things are happening there in the cockpit, certainly around this track. I almost hit the start-finish line just trying to change or look at something. I don't even know I panicked.
You can't really blink in these things, or else you're off the track at that point. Next week, with it being Spa, that track is often more associated with these sort of high downforce machines. You're excited for that?
Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit easier for everybody. Spa's not my favorite, but it should be a good fit for these cars.
And lastly, we saw, sadly, only 2 of the GT3 cars. Do you know if there's any talks internally about keeping that class up? Are you guys going to try to expand it, or is...
Definitely. Maybe people were turned away from the track, I guess, the challenge that this one bring. But yeah, we'd certainly love to see, a full field in that class as well.
We hope you find some more drivers in it, because the dynamic of the multi-class certainly was fun. And again, congratulations on a podium.
Hey, thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys. Have a good night.
It's AJ Roper, your third place finisher in the GTPs. It looks like that's going to wrap us up. So we, of course, want to thank the sponsors of this series. Porsche, there is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Game Changer Wealth, helping you become a game changer with wealth. Thanks to the team today, Joey, Daniel, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. We'll be heading off to Belgium for Spa on Monday, July 29th at 10 p.m. Eastern. But be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.
Yes.